Hey everybody, this is Pastor Teresa, and I want to thank you for joining me for our virtual Sunday School Celebrate Wonder. Today, we are going to hear a story about some people in the early church who were having a bit of a problem. They had a bit of a conflict, an issue, and they needed to find a way to fix it together. So before we jump into that story and learn more about that, let's get our voices and our bodies warmed up with a song. I hope that you'll join me. Choosing the Seven, Acts chapter 6, verses 1 through 7. The community of believers was growing so fast, and the disciples, Jesus' followers, couldn't keep up. The disciples held a meeting. "It is our job to tell people about Jesus," said the disciples. "We can't feed the widows and the poor and still have time to teach about Jesus. We need help. Select 7 believers who are wise and good. These 7 people will feed the widows and help the poor." The other believers were happy the disciples chose to find some help. "We would like to choose these 7 believers: Stephen, Philip, Prochorus, Nicanor, Timon, Parmenas, and Nicholas," said the community. The disciples said a prayer for the 7 chosen and sent them to serve others. I wonder, how can you serve and show God's love to others?
Hello friends, it's Carly. Let's wonder together. In today's story, the community of Jesus' followers were growing bigger. There were disciples who were different from one another, and they end up having to figure out how to be in a loving community. They all wanted to spread Jesus' love. Love is a closeness and connection that we feel with God and others. And when we let others help, we can do even bigger things together. But the community had a problem. They brought their problem to the original 12 disciples because they were the leaders of their community. The 12 disciples realized that they had too much work and they needed more leaders to help them spread God's love. They went to the community and told them to pick 7 leaders. These leaders needed to be honest, respected, and chosen by the community. The community chose them, and these 7 leaders helped the 12 disciples. They took some of the extra work so that the disciples could keep sharing the good news. It would have been easy for the disciples to try and do everything on their own because they were known as the leaders. Sometimes when we're leaders, we don't think that we should ask for help. We think that we have to do everything by ourselves. But when we realize that we don't have to do it all, we give other people a chance to lead and serve too. We all have a role to play and everybody can't do the same thing. Think about it. If you were on a soccer team and everybody was the goalie, you couldn't play the game. The goalie's job is to protect the goal and make sure the other team doesn't score. That's really important. But you also need other players to run and kick the soccer ball up the field. When we realize every person is important in their role, then we play our best. Our Bible story reminds us that everyone has a role to play in creating a loving community. Now, it's your turn to wonder.
Ordinary Mary's Extraordinary Deed, written by Emily Pearson, illustrated by Fumi Kosaka. Ordinary Mary was so very ordinary that you'd never guess she could change the world. This ordinary kid? She did. She changed the world. One ordinary day, skipping on her way from her ordinary school to her ordinary house, she passed an ordinary vacant lot filled with ordinary bushes growing ordinary berries. Ordinary blue and juicy, luscious, lovely berries. Well, Ordinary Mary picked the ordinary berries and brought them in a big brown bowl to Mrs. Bishop's porch. What? Left berries in a big brown bowl on Mrs. Bishop's porch? That sneaky kid. She did. This made Mrs. Bishop very, very happy, so she baked a big batch of blueberry muffins and thought of 5 people who might have brought those beautiful berries, then secretly gave each a plate. How great! 5 people got a plate. One of those 5 was her paper boy, Billy Parker, and when Billy saw his name on a note in the driveway on a plate, he quickly parked his bike and ate every crumb. Oh, yum, yum, yum! He ate every crumb. This made him so glad that the next 5 people got their papers on the porch and not in the bushes where he often threw them. In fact, they were handed right to them. One of those 5 was Mr. Morey, who was so amazed that he smiled for 10 hours on the airplane, then said to 5 different people who had heavy bags, "Here, let me help you." He still smiled, and they did too. One of those 5 was Mario, whose cranky little boy James stopped crying when Mr. Morey played peekaboo with him until their ride came. When he waved goodbye, Mario exclaimed, "How strange that a stranger should be so kind!" And the next day when he was out shopping, once, twice, 5 times he did something nice for 5 different people. 5 times without stopping. One of those 5 was Joseph, old and bent and gray, in front of him in line at the produce stand. When he said, "I guess I counted wrong. I don't really need these oranges." Little James reached out to him with an orange from their basket, and Mario put a coin in Joseph's hand and said, "Here, take this. The oranges are on us." As Joseph shuffled to the bus, his heart was full and his eyes were wet, and his hands did helpful things for the next 5 people he met. One of those 5 was Sahar, a college girl who was off to see the world and stopped at Joseph's shop. When her bag broke and her things fell all over the floor, she said, "Oh, what will I do?" Joseph said, "This is for you." And he gave her a new bag woven with his own hands in red and purple and green. "Oh, thank you," she said. "It's the loveliest bag I've ever seen." When Sahar left, she felt sunny as noon, and she just had to shine on 5 people soon. One of those 5 was Sophia, whom she met on a boat, looking like the world might end, looking like someone without a friend. "What beautiful blue eyes you have," Sahar said. "And they're just the color of the flowers in your lovely dress." "Yes?" said Sophia. "Oh, yes," said Sahar. The beautiful blue eyes shed a happy tear, and when the boat trip was through, Sophia called 5 people to make them happy too. One of those 5 was Tom, her son the doctor, who was having a very hard day. "Hi," she said. "I love you, Tom."
"Well, how great to hear your voice,"
he sighed.
"I always need my mom."
Dr. Tom was so cheered up that on his next break, he bought a big bunch of bright balloons for 5 young patients, and he handed them out right then and there. One of those 5 was Peter, a little boy who went home from the hospital that very day. Gratitude for the big bunch of bright balloons filled him and thrilled him and spilled out of him and onto the next 5 people who came his way. One of those 5 was Eric, a teenage boy whose sacks and stuff were way too much. When one dropped on the sidewalk, Peter stopped his play and rushed right over, saying,
"Super Wheels to the rescue!"
Well, Eric, no longer stressed, was very impressed and made a mental note that very afternoon to help 5 people and do it soon. One of those 5 was Di, his 10-year-old sister who didn't have many friends and was painfully shy. When Eric said,
"Hey sis, want to come to the park and learn how to ride my skateboard?"
she looked at him wide-eyed.
"Serious?"
she cried.
"Sure,"
he said. And because of her brother, Di decided maybe she could be a friend to another 5 others. One of those 5 was Louise, a homeless woman who lived under the trees. She could hardly believe her ears when she heard Di say,
"May my brother and I buy you a hot dog and a drink at that stand over there?"
Could it be true? Someone actually cared? Cared enough to give her food and a smiley-faced ring that was practically new? Louise was so pleased that she decided that even though she had nothing, she would find 5 others and give them something. One of those 5 was Amara, who lost her wallet in the park. Louise found it, full of 5s and 10s and 20s. Oh, what she could do with all that money! But she found Amara's name and called her home, and over she came. Amara was so impressed that Louise was honest, when money was something she clearly needed, that she offered her a job in her store and vowed to do something generous for 5 people or more. One of those 5 was Kate, a woman on vacation who wanted to see a show she'd heard was a sensation. "Oh no," she said. "It's sold out, but I'm going home tomorrow." And her face filled with sorrow. Amara held out her ticket. "I live here," she said. "I can go any time." Kate loved the show and was so touched that she thought buying 5 presents for 5 people back home would be really fun. And one of those 5 presents was a little heart necklace for Mary, her niece. And you should have seen her eyes light up in surprise. Mary? What? Ordinary Mary? Yes, Ordinary Mary's extraordinary deed had come full circle. And on its way, it had changed the lives of every person living. You see, when Mrs. Bishop made muffins from Mary's blueberries, not only the paperboy Billy Parker, but the other 4 people too made 5 people smile. And those 5 did too. And after a while, in only 16 days, love was sent to every person everywhere. Just see how it went. Do you see the number 1 at the top of the page? That was Mary doing her one good deed. And every person after that did good deeds for 5 other people. And those people multiplied and multiplied and multiplied. And 16 days later, 30,517,578,125 people were touched by love. Well, 30 billion is way more than all the people on the planet. So after everyone had a share and everyone knew that somebody cared, there was even love left over. The world was changed, and thousands and millions and billions agreed it was all because one ordinary day, Ordinary Mary did a perfectly ordinary, stunningly earth-shaking, totally extraordinary deed.
Your voice is everywhere, in pictures and songs that hang in the air, to show us the way you love. And we sing along and you're teaching us why you washed our feet. The greatest must become the least. 'Cause there's power in these things we do them to remember you, how we called out and you came through for us. We remember your love. You blessed and broke the bread. You gave us a way to taste what you said, 'cause you poured out everything. And you never wanted us to forget the promises we heard, and how you give and keep your word. So there's power in remember your love.
Here at our awesome churches, here in Riverview and at Virgil, we often talk of each other as being part of a church family. And that is just one of the ways that we show our love and our connection to each other. So I want you to remember that if you're watching this right now, if you're listening to this, that you are part of that church family and that you are chosen and that you can show love to other people as well. So thanks for being part of this church family. And I'm so thankful that I get to be connected in God's love to you. Have a great week, everybody, and I will see you next time.